How you doing, guys? Malik over at Modern Pond. I'm going to give you guys a couple tips on croaker fishing. I did a croaker fishing video earlier. A lot of guys seem to like it. I'm going to give you guys a couple little tips and tricks that are going to help you avoid losing some of those big fish and maybe help you catch some of those big fish. If you watched my other croaker fishing video for speckled trout, you would have seen how we run our leader. And basically what we use is a 3, 4, 5, even up to a 6/0 croaker hook or a kale hook on a piece of monofilament or fluorocarbon leader, and then we run a couple of beads, glass beads, on either side of a lead egg weight, and we tie that to our braid or our mono or whatever we're fishing, preferably braid. That's basically what we use. The other system that we use is we replace the lead glass bead combo with the chatterweight. So we would run croaker hook with about 18 inches, maybe 24 inches of leader in the middle, to a chatterweight, and the chatterweight to our line. Pretty straightforward. Quick story, I was fishing with a guy and he lost 2 big fish fighting the fish, and we were kind of wondering, man, you know, we don't break off in the middle of the leader very often. And we could tell, because if we started out, let's say, with a 24-inch leader, and when he broke off, he ended up with about 12 inches of leader coming back to the boat, and that was all. So he broke off somehow in the middle of the leader. The knot didn't give out at the hook, the knot didn't give out at the line-to-line connection. It was kind of bizarre, and he did it twice. And he retied, went back to work, kept fishing, and I'm thinking, why? That's very bizarre. Did he have a bad spool of line? We looked at the line, everything looked good. What was happening that we figured out was he was using his own tackle, and he was using a system like this. Looks very similar to ours, except the weight in the middle was a tungsten weight. It was not lead. This is a tungsten weight. The tungsten is much, much harder than the lead weight, and what it was doing, it was chipping the glass bead. And when you cast out the croaker and you snap, snap, snap to wake that croaker up, make a little clicking noise. That's why we put all this on there, is to make this clicking noise as it slides back and forth, you know, as it's doing this number, is what we're trying to get it to do. This clicking noise that it was making, the tungsten being too hard was chipping the glass bead. If you can get a tight shot of this, this is a fresh leader. It's never been in the water. I was just playing with it earlier to show you what's going on. If you see, the mouth of this bead is starting to chip and fray. These beads, this is a fresh one, they come with like a fire polished mouth on the edge of the bead. There's no sharp edges. It doesn't going to braid your line. It's not going to cut your line. This one right here has been clicked back and forth a few times. I decided to check this, test it to see what was going on, what's going to cause the beads to chip. And from what I can get, the glass on glass does not seem to want to chip. We tried it quite a bit. I couldn't get the glass to glass to chip. I couldn't get the glass to the hook knot or the glass to a swivel knot or anywhere else to chip besides the tungsten to glass combination. So if you have to run tungsten, you need to think about running plastic beads or not run tungsten at all. If you're in an area where you can't run lead weights, go to the chatterweight. The chatterweight's a better alternative. What was happening was, as he worked his bait, that tungsten was just beating up on that glass. It was chipping the glass, and then this sharp, ragged edge, and if you look right there, you can see it. I just worked that line on that bead, and it just put a big abrasion in it. And so it was abrading through the line. It was shaving on that line. It was hurting his leader, and the effective braking strength was significantly reduced. Second tip for you guys, what we have seen fishing with some of our friends is sometimes they have a hard time catching the fish. They're either they're getting bites, their croaker are getting taken by the trout, but they're having a poor hook set ratio. If you're having a poor hook set ratio and you're using everything you can think of to try and get them to take the fish and to get hooked, there's a couple things that could be happening. Either A, you could be waiting too long to set the hook, and they're getting that croaker, they're mouthing a whole bunch, and they might be feeling the hook and spitting it. That's one possibility. Odds are what's happening is the way your hook is laying on the croaker, they're getting that croaker all the way in their mouth. It's getting nice it's getting in there, but when you go to set the hook or you go to give them pressure, it's just sliding right out. Okay? What happens sometimes with these hooks is the croaker are a little too big for the size hook that you're throwing. If they're too big, what you need to do is either up your hook size. You know, that doesn't look like a big upsize right there, but that can make a significant difference in your catch rate. Just that little bit. That little bit of size difference sometimes makes a difference. The other thing that we found is if you feel like you're missing some of those fish and you think it might be your hook's not setting in the mouth, take a pair of pliers and offset the shank just a little bit. You want to give it a little bit of English to the side like that. That right there versus this right here will not affect how the hook fishes with the croaker on there. You're not going to lose the croaker, but you will increase the probability of a hook set. That little bit of offset of the point, it does help. Here's a third tip for you guys. When you croaker fish, you'll very quickly find out that croaker are expensive. I've seen them anywhere from $8 to $12 a dozen. So, I mean, you're looking at a minimum 60 cents a piece, all the way up to $1 a piece for those guys. They're not cheap bait. A lot of guys say, how many croaker should I take? If you are a very good fisherman and you've been doing it for a long time, I know guys that can go catch their 10 trout on 3 dozen croaker. So they can catch about 1 keeper for every 3 baits that they bring. That is pretty much an ideal situation. Don't buy 10 croaker and expect to catch 10 fish. A 3-to-1 ratio would be very, very good. Most guys need a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1 even. You need to think, okay, 10 fish, you're going to need 4-to-1. That's a pretty safe ratio on the amount of croaker that you should buy. With that in mind, that's if you don't throw them off when you're casting or lose a whole bunch of them when you're fishing. We went fishing with a lady, and she had, I don't know whose rod it was, her husband's rod. She brought her own rod, and it was very, very stiff. And she was losing her croaker on the shake. So when she's got her line cast out there, you know, take the slack up and shake, shake, shake to try and bring that croaker up out of the grass, make some noise with the beads. And what was happening was her rod, the tip of her rod had like no give in it. This has got like a nice soft point to the tip of the rod. So when it pulls on it, it doesn't put that much force on the croaker. She was basically fishing like a glorified pool cue. It was just really, really, really stiff rod. When she went to shake it, the Power Pro having no stretch and the rod having very, very little flex in it, soft tip flex, was jerking the hook and cutting through the croaker. If you haven't seen my croaker video on where you're supposed to hook them, the general consensus for the best place to place the hook is directly below the lateral line and directly above the anal fin. So you make lateral line to anal fin, that's where the hook goes in. And she was tearing through those croaker when she would pop because the rod was too stiff. So if you seem like you're losing croaker on the shake, it's going to be because your rod's too stiff. Guys, thanks for watching my videos. If you have any questions, post them in the comment section. I'm more than willing to take the time to answer them. Check us out at modernpondandguns.com. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.